Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we are going to be taking you live up until about 12 o'clock, um, where we go over the most recent changes to the NFL slate. We're going to do some lineup builds, go over who we like. Not exactly sure who's going to be joining me. Oh, here's Rhodey. There he is. Let's just wait for him to click in there.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, I'm late. I'm having some camera difficulties right now. So,
All right, so we're off to a good start with camera difficulties. Bobby is probably going to be joining us maybe shortly. He's going through family stuff, but we'll see. His Dodgers living the charm life.
yeah, they are.
Over the last couple of days. Even right up until the not as much of a charm life as I was living in that World Series game, by the way. So for those of you who didn't see, I won the showdown in game one. Took it down solo for 50,000, and the way it happened was literally like amazing. So first of all, I was in first place before the Freeman home run, and stayed in first place even though I didn't have Freeman in the captain. And what actually got me, it was literally amazing. So one guy had Gavin Lux, and Gavin Lux got like walked or something to get him within one point of me. Okay. So I'm sitting there with Gavin Lux on first base, and I'm like, oh, please don't steal. I mean, he's going to steal, but just please don't steal. So they didn't send him. Okay. And then, so he ended up getting to third base on some whatever. And then the most miraculous thing happened. They pinch ran for him. So all of the run equity is gone. And it doesn't matter what happened. I mean, that's literally amazing. Like if they left him in the game, he scores on the Freeman home run for openers. So, and I lose.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was.
I didn't realize that's how you got that.
Now, first of all, if they were going to do that, they probably should have pinch ran for him when he was at first, so that they could have had someone steal second when they were down a run. Okay, but what's his name? He's not as always doesn't always know what's going on. So I was very thankful for that. So anyway, the big news we're going to deal with in Cincinnati, and then we're going to get into, I guess, who we like or whatever. So T. Higgins is out. T. Higgins not out. T. Higgins, it says he's an uphill battle to play. Okay, whatever that means. And for what I remember, again, I'm not the no ball guy, but I have seen this before where they think he's not going to play, and then they let him play, and then he just literally is a decoy the whole game. Okay, or he gets like 20% of the snaps or something like that. So I'm curious to see what the how the projections kind of handle that. The other thing, again, we'll look at. I just rebuilt everything, so I do not have like updated ownerships yet. I don't think on Cincinnati. I would imagine that Chase would have gotten a bump as a result of that. We know how he loves to just kind of take over sometimes. So there's that. Any other news that you know about before we just get into this, or not really?
Doesn't look like ETN's going to play for the Jags. No other news really. I think Taysom Hill's in the game this week. You got DK's still got trouble for that. So Jackson and Smith and Lockett could be a good play. Yeah.
Are we presuming him out in the projections, Metcalf?
I don't see him in any of them.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
and it looks like Jaden Daniels is surprisingly playing. I didn't think he was going to play.
Yeah, he looks like he's a go-to. So there's no DK in the projection. So we have him already out. So he's factored in that way. So
what's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on? So let's just kind of get get right after it. So I guess we'll just start with you, Rhodey. I mean, any overall view of the slate? Like any particular teams like them? We'll go player by player. I mean, listen, I'm hosting, so I can do whatever I want. So any particular, I don't say hot takes, but any particular observations over the slate before we get into it?
No, I kind of like the Packers in Houston again this week. I think the Jags, Trevor Lawrence is priced down. They're kind of under owned. I think they could pass a lot today. It's a cheaper stack. I don't mind that. I'm kind of off the Bo Nix side of it. I'd rather go with the Lawrence side of it. Cousins in a pace-up game there. I like that one. Those are kind of my main lineups, and then we can just get into it. Nothing really crazy. A lot of value today. A lot of cheap receivers to figure out. And then I got a tighter running back pool probably.
So what's interesting is to see what actually becomes of this Miami thing, because at the beginning of the week, it was literally a one game slate, at least thematically. You playing Tyreek Hill at 7K is kind of ridiculous. Not to mention Waddle at 5,500, and we knew that stuff would happen, but I'm just curious to see where you ended up. All right, so I guess we'll just do quarterback first. I mean, I just ran some stuff like who are you getting for the majority of your quarterback? Who do you like, Rhodey?
Oh, it's to me. Okay, yeah. I mean, I like Love. I like C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence. I'm getting a little Burrow. I never played the Bengals a lot though, and I don't know. I like Chase a little bit. He gets a bump. I like. Yeah, really, it's kind of spread out. I got a couple Geno stacks. My high dollar is going to be probably Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson in a good passing game environment there. Maybe they got a high total. Mahomes is kind of being slept on a little cheaper. They got Hopkins, a super cheap stack there. Those are kind of my main options. Then you got Tua's pretty cheap, and then Tyreek Hill is pretty cheap. That's a decent stack. No one's sleeping on Cousins. I like Kirk Cousins a lot, 6'2" with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and that's actually one of the higher paced up games on the slate. So I kind of like that game a lot. And there's a lot of cheap value for the Bucks to run it back with. Then you got Jameis Winston for Cleveland. If you're going to attack Baltimore, you want to pass. Maybe he does something with a couple cheap options there, but I'd rather go with the Bucks cheap options than the Browns cheap options.
So I'm currently, and then we'll go see if Bobby has anything to say. I mean,
I'm happy to weigh in on it.
What's that?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll say it for you.
Yeah, so I'm kind of playing majority of like the two obvious things, and my two highest owned right now are Burrow and Tua. I'm kind of into. I was kind of into Cincinnati throwing against Philadelphia anyway, and now you're going to get like more usage out of Chase and more usage out of the other guy, Eusebius, who I like anyway. So I presume they're going to get popular as a result of all this, but that's where I'm getting right now. And the second kind of obvious one I'm getting is Tua. So Burrow and Tua for me are my top two owned quarterbacks, and I have nobody over 10% after those two right now. What do you think of quarterback, Bobby, or any overall views?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things. I mean, just real quickly on the slate, that I think is a really tough slate in a sense because we have a lot of value, but it's very speculative value, but there's a lot of it. So some of it's going to hit there. And I think that you're going to want to be getting different exposures to that. The weird part is with the value, and I just wanted to throw out that for some reason, even with the value, the ownership on the best running back options is way too low. I have no idea why Saquon Barkley isn't 30% owned. I think it's an incredible matchup and it's an incredible spot. I have literally no idea. And you guys mentioned liking Burrow, especially if you like Burrow. And I like Burrow. Okay, he's not one of my highest on quarterbacks, but I just don't understand why people are doing some of those things. But as far as quarterbacks go overall for me, I'm buying this Mahomes thing. I think this is the Mahomes 4 or 5 touchdown game. And with all the stuff the Raiders talked in the offseason and have mocked him all week, and they did the whole thing, the little TikTok thing with his voice. I just think if it's a game that they can control, and it's, look, these games tend to play a little closer than people think, KC and Vegas. But I do think this is the spot where you might see Mahomes go just ballistic, and I am buying in on that. The only other two quarterbacks above 10% are Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. I like that game a ton. I was not going to be as into it if it was going to be Mariota with Jaden Daniels available. I think that game has easy, 35, 32 type of potential, or better. I like Lamar. and he's just under 10% for me. But then I get into Winston, Burrow, Baker, Stroud, and Richardson. Stroud and Richardson, I'm trying to get more. Stroud and Richardson, I just can't quite get to enough of. I don't know why everyone's off the Indianapolis-Houston game. I guess because there's so many games. But I want at least 10% of my ownership combined to be one of those two guys, whether more Richardson than Stroud for me. But I do like that game environment quite a bit.
Okay, so running back, you kind of alluded to it. The top running back plays, it really literally hasn't changed for me. Well, it has a little bit actually. So at the beginning of the week, I commented that Breece Hall and Joe Mixon kind of like stood out over everybody else by like a decent amount. And there's other guys that I ended up getting more of than Mixon at the end of the day. So I have Hall. I have a full 57% of him. In big buy-ins, that's probably going to be with the field. In the lottery, I mean, not everybody's going to play him. I guess I'll be 40 or something like that, 35. Literally perfect matchup. As far as, you know, the favorite, and New England's no good against the run, and all this. Okay. Then I have Javonte Williams next. Again, these are all chalk. I'm just telling you. Javonte Williams, Denver, same thing. Home. This one's home as an 11.5 point favorite against Carolina. You know, and it's just pretty much of a smash spot. Then similarly, J.K. Dobbins, 7 point favorite at home. Same deal. And then above Mixon with Tua back, I'm going to go playing some A-Chain. So I have like 25% of that. So nothing particularly off the board for me. I'm not getting to the lock Barkley play. I don't think I'm playing him at all.
Nobody's playing him. That's the point.
Oh, okay. And then, I'm also not getting Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? I'm not getting all those guys that can put up 30. I'm playing the guys that are going to hope, you know, maybe get 17. Maybe that's a mistake, but Hall, Williams, Dobbins, A-Chain, and then everybody else I'm under 15%. What about you, Rody?
Yeah, I mean, I like what you guys had to say. I'm a little higher on Kenneth Walker today. He looks a little low on too. I kind of really like him. You know, I do like Barkley a lot. A-Chan's a good price. That 6K running back price tag's really good. You got like Josh Jacobs even in there against Jacksonville. Hasn't really stopped the run at 6,600. I said Javonte Williams, and you get Kareem Hunt at 6'3". He's been running a lot, but I think Mahomes and them go back to passing this week. But I'll dabble a little bit of Hunt. Chase Brown at 5'8", Tank Bigsby at 6'3", another one of those in the 6'3" range. That's 6'3", and then James Conner a little bit lower owned in that Miami game as well. So I kind of like that. So yeah, just a few lower owned plays there.
I'll throw out my other guys if that's all right.
Yeah.
I have Barkley as my highest owned running back, as I mentioned. I really do just completely think that the projections got this one wrong, and that's just my take. Barkley followed by Breece Hall, A-Chain, Mixon, Henry, DeAndre Swift. I have some Javonte Williams. It feels extremely fishy to me. And if you're playing the afternoon slate, I would suggest playing McLaughlin instead of Williams. He's 4,600, and Williams had a big week once. Last week, and I don't think we should just assume that this is going to be all him necessarily. I like the McLaughlin as an afternoon slate only play. The other one that I'm getting to, just I want to mention because they're low, and I love the Roadies call on Kenneth Walker. I have 12% of them, but it's probably double the field. I think I could go a little higher even. And I also love Jonathan Taylor when no one wants to play him, so I've got 10% of him. And then you just, all the 8-9% guys are like guys like Connor, Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, Bigsby. I didn't get to quite as many of the cheaper ones as you guys did.
An interesting tournament observation is that one guy that nobody mentioned, and same thing that neither of us mentioned when we did it earlier in the week, is the cash game quarterback, and that's Bo Nix. So Bo Nix is like the best point per dollar play and remains that way. But in tournaments, it's just kind of hard, not hard, but it's just kind of, I think, inefficient to play him. You're not going to want to. He's not like a ceiling guy. And I don't really feel like just pairing him up with Sutton and Valet or whoever and just hope that game just goes 20 points above the total. It's so it's again two totally different things. If you want to play Mixon, I don't play cash, but it's certainly a best point per dollar play. But as far as tournaments go, I don't know if I have any of him.
Yeah, and I think that just to that, I have 4%, just because I don't mind getting to a little bit of it, but I agree with your overall assessment. just about how, the ceiling thing. The only thing is that we've seen all these non-ceiling players put up ceilings against Carolina would be the pushback. But at the same time, we don't have to do it at chalk. So I that's where I agree with you overall.
Do you think he's going to be like over 10% in the Millie Maker?
I think he'll be the highest owned quarterback at around 10 or 12%.
I think so. Okay.
There's a lot. I mean, there's 13 games, so there's going to be spread out, in my opinion.
All right, so I'll start. I mean, I'll just keep starting. So I'll start a wide receiver only because it's like so simple. The way I'm looking at it right now, you guys can probably tell me in order, maybe the top four receivers. So it would be Eusebius, Chase, Waddle, Hill. It's like so it's not particularly earth shattering. And then and only then do I then go into like all these other value guys like McMillan, Cedric Tillman, Drake London. I have like over 10% of that. And now we're into just guys I have about 11, 12% of it. I could list a million. Like, I'll just throw them out there. Ridley, Dell, McConkey, Tyler Boyd even, Stephon Diggs. But it's very thematic right now for me. Burrow with those two dudes and Tua with those two dudes.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Should I go or Rody up?
Yeah, no, you go for it, Bobby.
Yeah, you go.
I do have Hill and Waddle as my two highest owned receivers, but I don't think people are playing Waddle. So I actually think that you're actually getting different a little bit with it. He's I mean, the ownership projection on him is around 5, depending on where you look though. Like it is different. Like I know Sheets and Goldie have him a little bit higher than SaberSim does, and I kind of agree with Sheets and Goldie on that I think he's going to be more than 5% owned, but I still have him high. Most of my guys, though, are under 10%. The only guys above 10% ownership that I have above 10% of are Yosevas, which I barely have above 10, and Tillman, which I barely have above 10. But Trey Palmer, the little stupid narrative, he said it 4 times now. He's tweeted in his career about I think the 4th time he's tweeted that he's woke up angry, and every other time he's smashed. He's been on the Millionaire Winner. It's always been when he's been there. When he's been the only, all the other guys are hurt and stuff. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Lockett projects really well, but I like Smith and Jigba better. The one I want to go to, though, that I want to talk about real quickly, is one Sheets mentioned early in the week. Why aren't we just playing DeAndre Hopkins? And I've come around to this a little bit. I think that DeAndre Hopkins is totally worth gambling on with Mahomes. Also, like to get him comfortable against the Raiders. It feels like the right spot to sort of play that Mahomes, Kelsey, Hopkins, or Mahomes with Hopkins, Mahomes with Kelsey. I just feel like that's a really good way to go. And then everybody else is going to be stack related for me pretty much. McLaurin in my Washington, Chicago stacks, DJ Moore in my Washington, Chicago stacks, Keenan Allen in my Washington, Chicago stacks. And for what it's worth, Tillman's getting all the ownership, but I have just as much ownership on Elijah Moore. So that's where I'm at. Rody, what about you?
Yeah, you guys named quite a few receivers. Maybe you didn't name like Jaden Reed. I really like again, and Dobbs in that game too. They both attacked Jacksonville really well. The Tank Dell's another one I'm going to go back to. I'm going to keep going back to these guys. I really like those guys. And then any other Brian Thomas Jr. and Christian Kirk. I feel like Kirk's going to have a game one of these days, but Brian Thomas is playing really good. I think they're going to be down throwing the ball. Jalen Coker's another value play. I know it's Carolina, but he's one of the guys, no Deontay Johnson. Like he got a lot of work last week ran a lot of snaps, throwing a couple targets that he couldn't get, but he's a really good value play at 3-1 that I really like to get into. Veli for Denver too, if you want to get 3-4. So these are just a couple other value plays from the value plays that they named before. Tim Patrick's cheap too. This week we got no at 3,500. We got no Jameson Williams there in Detroit. Maybe it could be a slower paced game. So, but I don't mind him as sprinkling a little value. So that's kind of why I'm like around like the lower on my MME build. I'll be lower on some of these other cheaper receivers because there's just so many of the guys. I want to just get a little bit of each one and just kind of sprinkle it around. That's kind of what I'm doing with the value plays. Just hoping I get a few lineups with the right value guy this week.
So let's go to tight end, and I'll just keep starting at tight end. At tight end, I'm exactly where I was at the beginning of the week, and that's just probably way too much of Cade Otton. So currently, I have 52% of him, and then the other 4 guys. Well, I got to add a 5th now, but the four guys that I had were Kelsey, Njoku, and Bowers and Engram. I have all those over 10%. But hell, if I'm going to be thematic, I should probably include the all junior from the Bengals in there. So some of that as well. Again, nothing off the board for me as far as tight end.
I feel very strongly that Taysom Hill is being underprojected, and he's my highest owned tight end right now, along with K. Dotton, as you mentioned. But he's projected to be 3% owned. Someone's going to have to explain this to me. Like, I don't get it. I think that I think he's a terrific play. I understand there's other guys. I like Njoku just fine. I like Bowers. I like Kelsey. But why is Taysom Hill at 3,900 being overlooked? I don't really know. Maybe it's just because their total is low. But remember, like this, he's going to play some quarterback too. He's going to have some running plays potentially near the goal line. We've seen this over and over again, especially when they're not. When you've got Rattler at quarterback. I just think it makes a lot of sense to play some of the K. Dotton. I'm sorry, some of the Taysom Hill.
What do you think about tight end, Rody?
Yeah, Bowers is pretty much the top guy today, but I mean, I like Evan Ingram against the Packers. Packers give up a lot to tight ends. K. Dotton's a really good value, played 3.5. Obviously, you got David Njoku against Baltimore Ravens. Haven't really stopped tight ends either this year. Kyle Pitts I like at 4,400 as well. Dalton Schultz at 4,100 on DK. I'll have him in my Stroud stack. I'm really thinking he's going to emerge one of these days. And then, Dalton Kincaid's pretty cheap too at 4,900. He's dropped a little bit. I know he was banged up a little bit, questionable, but I think he's good to go. Jonnu Smith too in your Miami stack at 3,600. He's pretty good. And he's low owned. So he's been getting a lot of work as well from Tua when he was in the game too. And then Tucker Kraft at 4,600 as well. I like that too.
Before we go to defense, I don't want to say make the case, but I'll just give a little bit of caution as far as K. Dotton, only because I was watching it last week. So K. Dotton had like, however many targets he had and receptions in the last game. Mm-hmm. Almost all of it was in the last two possessions of I don't say garbage time, but sort of like backdoor cover time.
Yeah.
Where they just marched down the field and he just caught like 100 passes. So I think he's a little bit over-owned, a little bit of recency bias, maybe even a little bit over-projected as a result of that. It's just kind of natural. But the problem, though, is that it's the same situation. Then now you got both top receivers out. So it's he's just going to probably get a lot, not to say as much usage, but he's going to get in there. All right, so for defense, again, I'll start again. The good news is I'm not getting over 15% of anybody. Actually, I'm getting 17% of somebody. And the two guys I'm getting the most of are just the most logical, and that would be the Chargers and the Broncos. They pair wonderfully with Dobbins and Williams. I don't know whether I'm getting the Chargers because I'm getting Dobbins or Dobbins because I'm getting the Chargers, and the same thing with the Broncos. But the game script and the story is the same. 7-point favorite, workhorse, the whole thing. Okay, so I do like both the Chargers and the Broncos defenses. You have kind of fishy quarterbacks on the other side as well. And after that, I have literally everybody under 10%. I'll just throw a few. Texans and Lions I have is the guys are 9%. That's what I'll leave you guys at defense. How about you, Rody?
Yeah, defense I'm really spread out. The Jets project really good if you're going to get up to 3.5. Obviously, the Chargers at 3,300 are great. Bears are another one I'm kind of getting into a little bit. We do obviously Jaden Daniels is going to play today, but they've actually had a pretty good defense at 2,700. They're decently cheap. I don't mind sprinkling some Titans at 2,200 in a slower paced game. Maybe Detroit gets a turnover or something and they score, and Titans can get a score. But Panthers at 2,300. I'm still not sold on Denver. I know Bo Nix is good and chalky today, but maybe the Panthers get a pick. He runs, he could fumble, just come a couple cheap defenses. I spread it out. I got all these guys. I got Bears, Jets, Chargers quite a bit. Broncos even at 3,700 when you want to spend up. It's a good play too. So,
yeah. Anything at defense you like, Bobby?
Yeah, so I'm pretty spread out too. The Chargers are my highest on defense. But I also did want to mention just real quickly about FanDuel. Defense on FanDuel, I think the Lions are just way too cheap at 4,000. And at tight end, we didn't mention Kincaid, who I'm not playing really on DraftKings, but he's 4,000 on FanDuel for some bizarre reason. So Dalton Kincaid, if you're playing on FanDuel, is I think you should have him in more than half your lineups, depending on how many. I mean, actually, if you're playing 150, I would still have him in more than half of my lineups. 4K is just a ridiculous price tag.
That's pretty strange, no?
Yeah, very.
It's really weird.
It's just like almost like a mistake or something. But yeah, and the one that keeps trying to feed me, and I don't want as much of it, is this. I mean, the Bears, sure, I guess they're cheap enough, but I don't really want to. Keeps trying to give me like 20% of the Bears, and I'm trying to like just make sure to lower that down, but trying to do it naturally a little bit, and it's not quite working.
Well, since you brought it up, as far as FanDuel goes, I'll share with you guys just like my ownership there, see where the difference is, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of difference at quarterback. Well, there is a little bit. I'm actually getting just more of Tua over there, and less of Burrow, for whatever that means. And then running back, almost the same. Maybe a little. Is DeAndre Swift not on the main slate over? No, DeAndre Swift. I'm getting more of that over there for some reason. Wide receiver, just a little more of Romeo Dobbs than DraftKings. Tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, as you mentioned. I'm getting, he's my highest owned guy over there. And pretty much nothing else that's that different. Are you playing? Or except that I have to pare these down. So I'm getting 32% like Detroit Lions, and and 23% Chargers over there. What are you, Rody? Are you playing FanDuel? And if so, is there any real difference you can highlight or no?
I did throw a lineup over on FanDuel just now actually, because the 222 didn't fill yet, and that's a good contest. So I haven't really looked at too many difference. I know Kincaid, I know the Lions. I haven't looked at many other ones yet. So what you said's accurate.
Bobby, did you look at FanDuel? You did Kincaid. So
yeah, the thing Ricky Pearsall is 5,200.
Oh yeah.
He's the rookie who just played his first game last week. He got shot at the beat before the start of the season.
What team?
San Francisco.
Oh, that's in the late game. Oh, okay, okay.
So, and then I think Jordan Mason in that same game is an interesting pivot off of Henry and Barkley. But I kind of like the idea of playing like Mason with Barkley and just get like the low ownership on both sides. And I think it's a really good way to go. You could actually do that with Jamar Chase, because I did it. And you do all three of those spend ups. You've got guys like Trey Palmer at the minimum cost.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Similar. So he's another one. So you can play these cheapos and then play the spend up at running backs. But I think that everyone who spends up will play Barkley, or mostly they'll play Henry. I like the idea of using some Mason, which K9 actually mentioned in the chat.
Is this Pearsall play something like everybody knows about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got to update those projections and stuff. So he's going to be I don't know what he is in Showdown, but I imagine he's going to be very cheap and chalky over there.
Yeah. So I think that I'm just going to take a quick look at this projected ownership, because it is pretty. It should be pretty high in my opinion.
Yeah,
they got him at 16%. I guess is going to be owned. It's pretty high.
Well, let me just see what his price is in Showdown on Pearsall. Oh no, they got him. He's 5,800. Okay. So he's not like a $1,200 guy. Okay.
Right. I mean, with the injuries they have at receiver, and the fact that I think they're going to pistol whip the Cowboys today. He's their number 2 receiver, essentially with the injuries to Jennings and Ayuk. I just think he's going to be involved. They looked for him last week anyway. So I really like that play.
You like Kittle tonight?
Yeah, I think all sides being overweight on the San Francisco is the way to go to me.
Are they going to play any game this year where you're going to be happy? I mean, like,
what's that?
San Francisco. I mean, like,
what do you mean?
I mean, just in general. I mean, they've been kind of brutal.
Oh yeah, they've been bad, but nobody's been worse than the Cowboys.
Nobody's been worse than Dallas. That's a
good team. So
this is your get right spot. I mean,
look, I hope San Francisco loses, and I hope I'm wrong, because my Rams are back in the hunt right now and would have a great shot if the Rams could be tied for first place by the end of the weekend after being 1-4, 3-4.
So I want to ask you guys a couple of theoretical questions, because we did leave a little bit of time here. I was going to lead with this, but so I heard. I mean, again, I was listening to a lot of not a lot of content, but some kind of like conceptual content that on a slate like this, because there was like all these like kind of big favorites, there weren't a lot of like big like shootout type games. where you could count on both teams kind of like going after it.
Mhm.
So you don't really want to worry too much about stacking, and making like 2x1 and one with run backs and stuff like that. There are a couple of games that you can do that with, but aside from that, like if you played, say, like Detroit, or I guess that's not a bad example. So Detroit, like St. Brown, he projects well, but I mean, is it going to be like how is he actually going to get there? And guys like even I guess Breece Hall, I suppose he can get there, I guess. But if they're really controlling the game, the Jets, is Breece Hall really? I'm kind of liking your Barkley thing. You know what I mean? Like if I'm really, especially me, like if I'm really playing all these freaking Bengals guys.
Mhm.
First of all, how am I not playing AJ Brown? Okay. And second of all, I should probably be playing Barkley. And so I think that you could really focus on like the games, like if we're right that, okay, so let's go back to this a second. So you were talking about playing Kansas City, and playing a bunch of guys over there. We're talking about some people playing Bo Nix and Javonte Williams, like all these games where these teams rate to, win kind of low scoring games by like a decent amount. I mean, instead, just play these games that can kind of go off like that. I don't know, the Jacksonville Green Bay game that Rhodey's talking about a little bit, even the Philadelphia game, and this Miami Arizona game. I should probably get some run backs over there. I don't know, like you have any thoughts about that? Are you setting any rules for run backs, or like what types of lineups are you playing nowadays in the Millie Maker, Bobby?
Yeah, it's different every week, but I think that you're bringing up some interesting points. I actually do think there's a couple games that are so I'll just give me like a lock on the over on this Washington-Chicago game, assuming that Jaden Daniels plays, which I think
that one could be fun. Yeah.
I have no idea why the total is 46. I felt like it'd be 52. And I think that's a great shootout type of game to go after. You've got Swift cheap at running back if you want, and you play Daniels with McLaurin. You could play Caleb Williams with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, run it back with either Brian Robinson or McLaurin. I like Noah Brown as a get weird spend down only in stacks, but I do think it's an interesting play. So most of I'm looking at my exposure right now. QB solo is still my highest, but only at 20%. I have a QB1 plus one on the other side is 15%. QB2 plus 2.
But you have QB solo as your top owned thing?
That's SaberSim is almost always spitting.
Like who is it?
I don't actually know that's specific. Those specific ones, which they are right now. To be honest, I'm still running some stuff, but as of right now, that I'm just looking at my stack exposure, and that's the number one. But it's barely
like Bo Nix. I mean, like, is that the story? I mean, like
I think those are going to end up being the Knicks lineups. I think those are going to end up being. I have a couple Bills lineups. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you have Buffalo against Seattle. That's the one we didn't even talk about. I mean, you have Josh Allen in the dome who's going to be 2% owned.
Seattle's got some injuries and their offensive line isn't great right now. But as I always mention, I do feel like the Bills are somewhat fraudulent. So I think it is kind of a good game to go after. But the Bengals Eagles, as you mentioned earlier, I think that's a good one. Rody, how about you for stacks?
Yeah, what kind of lineups are you playing nowadays? Are you like setting rules? Are you like playing game stacks, or you're just kind of running with the projections and whatever happens? I mean, how are you constructing right now?
I just kind of do you guys do on the SaberSim. I just run builds. I don't set any rules really. I just get what I got. I add a little bit of players that I do like, so I'll bump them up if I think they're too low. But I run optimals initially, and then I kind of work my way. I still game stack. I don't do any of the QB, no stack stuff. So I'm QB1 or with one. I do let a little bit of that. I don't do any heavy stack though. 3+2s anymore though. I do a lot less of that. I would say 2+1s are my most common, or 1 and 1.
But do you set those on purpose? You know what I mean? Like, do you say like I want 0 QB0s, or you just
no. I run a build initially, then I run sims, and then I do all that on the SaberSim. And then what I do is I look and see what stacks I'm giving, and then I X the ones out that I don't want. And usually I X out QB no stack, but there's only like showing up for me usually like 5 lineups or like 3% of my lineups or something.
Okay.
So they're not heavy when I run my sims or anything for the contest that I'm playing. So,
all right. So let's go with I guess with the hot take. Bobby's entire build is a hot take. So I think Bobby could just rewind and just listen to what I said. But what give me like a hot take. Like what's winning the Millie Maker? What's just give something that if it happens we could brag about.
Yeah, okay. I'll say Saquon and Taysom Hill in the winner.
Saquon and Taysom Hill in the winner.
That
okay,
is
fair enough.
Braggable.
But it's a hot take that to me doesn't seem like it should be at all hot. Like I really don't think that Saquon Barkley should be a hot take. He's the highest usage running back in football, and for some reason people don't want to play him because they're afraid of what happens at the 2-yard line. I don't care. I just think he's too good of a play. So he's my strongest take because I've got him, six times the field or whatever.
What do you got?
I think that Jaguars Packers game goes off today. I might do a little heavy stack on that maybe. That's my
I
fan.
like that for what it's worth, Rudy.
Jaguars game.
Yep.
Yeah. Before I get to that, the reason why I don't want to play the Washington stuff is if Jaden Daniels was like questionable all week, I just don't know if he's going to like run. I guess if he's going to play, he's going to play or whatever it is. Boy. All right. I was going to say sort of what you said. So I am going to go with that. I'm going to say two things. I'm going to say that I think the Green Bay Jacksonville game can go ballistic. And then my other take, and this is like it's kind of like flies in the face of what I'm playing, but whatever it is. I just have this feeling that Breece Hall busts. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, whether it's Braylon Allen vulturing touchdowns or whatever it is. It's a low scoring freaking game. And I just think, and I think that so here's going to be my take, that what's going to win the Millie Maker is how about this? Is the Jets passing game. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers with Adams and Wilson, okay? And New England, you know what I mean? And that's gonna be my take. The Jets do in fact win the Millie Maker, but Breece Hall scores 9 fantasy points.
This news just came out actually. Alan Lazard's inactive, so
yeah, I just saw that.
Adams and Wilson won't have anything to compete with the Lazard troll game.
Yeah,
he'll just have the who will be the troll game? The Jared Rucker troll game? Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's a big deal. So yeah, I remember Aaron Rodgers. He's got some pride, whatever. And I'll tell you this: that if they do have a lead, he's going to keep throwing. You know what I mean? Like if they can. All right, so that's going to be my take. Jets passing game to win the Millie Maker, or at least for me, maybe to win the 1 p.m. only slate.
I actually don't mind I have 4% of the Rodgers, but I actually did just bump up my Wilson after I saw that. And I did want to throw out one other thing that we got news that I thought was important. Obviously, like say Zay Flowers is active, which is important, but it's not. It's not like I'm all over him. But DeAndre Hopkins, the announcement was this early in the morning. They're saying he's going to play a significant amount of the snaps this week.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So 4,900 DeAndre Hopkins, and I just have a feeling that this is the Mahomes day.
Yeah, hey, you know what? That's definitely an interesting take. He hasn't had one yet. We'll see.
Yeah, it hasn't come close, but this is the Raiders. This is the troll game. This is the whole thing. This is the team they can probably move the ball on, doing whatever they want. They added the piece. It just all sort of adds up to this beautiful little Mahomes 4 or 5 touchdowns.
And it could be one of the great coaching mismatches like of all time.
It might be the greatest coaching mismatch of all time. I mean, in terms of just actual calling a game. Although I happen to love the Raiders coach, he's just not a. Yeah, I love him on my staff.
He can't keep up. He just can't keep up with the play calling.
Kicking a field goal when you're down by 7 with the 20 at the other team's 20-yard line.
Well, I'm not gonna get into that, but analytically, that was actually correct.
They say it's correct unless your team can't move the ball, so you're not, and you can't stop the run. So, I don't know.
Anyway. We'll see how it goes. And again, I'm gonna make the same promise that I'm gonna break every single week. At 3:00, I'm planning on coming on here and doing some late swap stuff, and then maybe at 5:30, there's a 6 p.m. NBA slate. So maybe I'll come on at 5:30, do the NBA slate, and we'll sweat like the final half of the 4:00 games because we'll all be live in the Millie Maker. So those 2 promises I'm gonna make, and I'm almost certainly gonna break, but I'm gonna try.
Well, shout out to you, Sheets, also for winning the baseball slate the other day. I didn't tell you because there was a lot of stuff going on, obviously. But I was in first place going into the.
I'm well aware of what you were, of where you were on that.
And so I had a shot there. I appreciate it.
Well, I would like to, since it was so good, I'm going to retell the story since you weren't here. Yeah. So remember, you were live in the other one. You were live in the lottery.
Yeah, exactly.
So mine was the 1111. Dude, let me tell you how lucky I actually am. Okay. So first of all, I was in first place before the Freeman home run. Okay. And I did not have Freeman in the captain. I had Jazz in the captain, Mr. 8 stolen bases. Okay. Yeah. And so after Freeman did hit the home run, I had to like look, oh my God, there's no way I held, but I did anyway. But this is how lucky I am. Okay. So someone who was behind me had Gavin Lux. Okay. And when Gavin Lux walked, it put him within 1 point of me. Okay. So I needed to make sure that Gavin Lux didn't steal or score anything. So first of all, I'm like sweating because I know that they're down 1 run. They have to send somebody. Okay. Yeah. But Gavin Lux not exactly the greatest base stealer. I'm like, oh, come on, please, just something happened before Gavin Lux steals. So something happened. Okay. And somehow, and then Ohtani came up, hit the sack fly, whatever, the out, whatever. Yeah. And then I saw the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I had a notification. Gavin Lux was subbed for a pinch runner. How good am I? Like if he's in the game, he scores the run when Freeman hits the home run and I lose.
I didn't even realize that they had a pinch runner for him.
Yeah.
That's weird because he's actually pretty fast.
That was literally amazing.
That was amazing. Yeah, that's a pretty crazy.
Yep. All right. Okay. That'll do it. Good luck, everybody, and watch for me at 3:00. And if I'm not there, don't yell at me. And watch for me at 5:30. If I'm not there, don't yell at me. Hey, and watch for me for the showdown slate at 7:30 tonight. And if I'm not there, don't yell at me either. But if I promise you this, if either of us three are live in the Millie Maker, we're front runners, so we will be there sweating. All right, guys.
All right. Good luck.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so Rody, is there anything else you need to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, I can take us out. Do you want me to take us out?
That would be nice.
All right, guys. Good luck, everyone. And as always,